Hey everyone, welcome back. JavaMentor.net here. In today's video, let's learn about default values for attributes and variables. So, let's try to declare one variable and do not assign anything in that variable, and then try to system out println that variable to see what is there. So, some number, and then take a note that I didn't say equals 10 or equals anything. And then if we try number, it will be red. And if we hover with our mouse, it says variable number might not have been initialized. So Java is complaining you cannot do something with the variable that it's not initialized. So if we just say equals 10, it stopped complaining. And there is an exact same problem with book variable. So if you just try to delete this part, it will complain here. You cannot do anything with the book because it might not have been initialized. So if you don't initialize your variable, compiler will complain. You won't be able to run your program. But okay, I just created, we already have one method inside book that's calculating weight on our book. And I just created one describe me method which takes the title and returned up to uppercase representation, so in capital letters. And I just, let's delete this because we realized with variables everything is fine. So everything is fine, I mean it won't run if it's not initialized. So I created a book, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, my favorite book from the childhood. Let's try to run this to see what it will tell us. Take a note that we didn't include number of pages, we just included title. So for the title, as expected, it will give you a big letters, but for the weight, it will give you 0, which is strange. Like, what is the value of this attribute, because we didn't give any. Take a note that. And somehow it works. It doesn't throw on an error. We were able to run our program. And the point is, for the fields, for the attributes of the class, they're default values. So the program will work even if you don't assign anything to these attributes. They are just assigned something default. So what are the defaults? Well, for int, it's 0. For boolean, it's false. For string and any other object, because this is a class and this title is holding an object, for everything that's a class, the default is null. So the defaults are, for everything that's a primitive data type, this is a primitive, this is a primitive. Remember from the data types tutorial, so everything that's primitive has some sensible default. For example, everything that's a number is 0. Boolean, default for the boolean is false, and so on and so on. For the double and float, which are also number primitives, it's also 0. But for everything that's of a type class, like a string, the default is null. And let me just create one small single method. I will name this one capital. So capital will have this to uppercase to transform the string to the capital, and normal describe me will not have that to uppercase. So it will just print the title in normal fashion. If we run our code, this is non-capital, right? But if we forgot to put some title and we run a code, so now note that book doesn't have any description, any title, sorry, it will print us null. And if we try to with describe me capital, well, now we have an error. This is a very common error, actually the most common error that you can get in Java programming language. It's a null pointer exception. So every time that you saw exception, error, you can just try to figure out from the text what's going on. The particular problem here is that you cannot invoke methods and you cannot do anything with nulls. You cannot invoke methods and you cannot access field. And that's what exactly we tried to do. This title is null and we tried to invoke some method on null. And that's why we got this null pointer exception. If we just uncomment this, so now title is not null, now we are able to call that to uppercase method on non-null, and now we have a normal result. So to summarize this video, variables, they must be initialized, otherwise you won't be able to even start your program. For the attributes, everything that has class type, like string, like person, like student, like any other class from Java, the default is null. For everything that's number, but it's primitive, it's not a class, the default value is 0. For the boolean, it's false. For other primitives, you can just try to Google a little bit. It's not important. I don't want to bother you too much. And the last thing, if you try to invoke some method on something that's null or try to access some field of the null, you will receive an exception, an error, a problem. That's it for now. See you in the next video.